This is the pre-lesson for the flipped classroom. The whole point of this lesson is just to get you used to listening to a video, pausing it, and taking notes when you need to. The first thing we're going to review is the distributive property. The distributive property is thinking about it in terms of when you have groups of something. So for example, if I have 5 parentheses x plus 3, that really is saying I have 5 groups of x plus 3. So you honestly could even write them out in your 5 groups if you wanted to. And if I do that, I have 5 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I also have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So that really gives me 15. So I have 2 ways I can do this. I can write it out, which is perfectly fine. Or another way I can do it is 5 times x, which equals my 5x. And then 5 times 3, which equals my 15. Again, either way is perfectly fine. Sometimes it's easier to write out in groups just to make sure you're multiplying correctly. If you look at the second example, I have 3 x's. So I have 3 groups of x. So there's 1 group, 2 groups, and 3 groups, which gives me a total of 3x. Again, I could do the same thing of 3 times x, which is going to give me the same answer of 3x. When solving for x, our whole goal is to get x on one side and our units on the other side. And I always draw a line down my equal sign just to make sure I know what's on what side. So in this case, I'm going to move my 3x over to my 5x. So when I move it over, it becomes a negative 3x. So 5x minus 3x gives me my 2x. I bring down my 12, and it's a positive 12. Remember, we always look at the sign in front of the number, equals, and I bring down my positive 24. So now I know all my x's are on one side, because they're all right here. Now I have to get my units on the other side. So my units are going to be my negative 12 are going to move over to this side. So I'm going to subtract 12. So from there, I'm going to bring down my 2x, because I didn't do anything with it. And then 24 minus 12 is 12. So now I look and I notice all my x's are on one side and all my units are on the other side. So the last thing we have to do is we have to divide both sides by the number in front of x, because I know 2 x's is 12, so if I want to know what 1 x is, I'm going to have to divide. So 12 divided by 2 is then going to equal 6. So my value of x in this particular case is 6. Now we know that I can take my 6 and plug it back into my equation and double check to make sure my answer is correct. So if I wanted to do that, I would do 5 parentheses 6 plus 12, and then 3 parentheses 6 plus 24 to make sure that they equal out. Now this one is taking what we've done in the last 2 slides and putting it together. So we're going to solve with the distributive property. So if you remember, if I have 4 parentheses x plus 2, that means I have 4 groups of x plus 2. So because I have that, I'll have 4 groups of x's, so that'll give me my 4x, and I'll have 4 groups of a positive 2, which gives me a total of a positive 8, is equal to, looking at this one, I have 3 groups of x plus 3. So if I have 3 groups of x plus 3, I'm going to have 3 groups of x and I'm going to have 3 groups of 3, which is 9. So now, because my parentheses are gone, I can go ahead and solve for x like we usually do. So I'm going to get all my x's on one side, and I always move my x's to the larger side. So my 3x moves to my 4x, becomes a negative 3x. So I have x plus 8 equals 9. Now all my x's are on this side. So I have to get my units on this side. So in order to do that, I take my 8, which is positive, because this number in front of the sign is a plus. So when I move it over, it becomes a negative. So I'm left with x equals 9 minus 8 is 1. So my answer is going to be x equals 1 for this problem. What I want you to do now is copy down this practice problem and solve for it. And if we were really doing this as a true flipped classroom lesson, I would check your answer tomorrow when you came in, and that would be your signature to verify your notes. So go ahead and try it now.